Hello, James Caton here. A very quick introduction to today's episode with NTT Data. Today we talk with Charlie Doubek about how multi-agent models are transforming supply chains, driving significant improvements in efficiency. We talk about red team agents, which will confirm and thus improve compliance and accuracy in multi-agent orchestrations. We talk about the shift from experimentation to deployment for agentic AI systems. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you will enjoy listening to it. As a reminder, this conversation is part of a series of interviews that are also published as an Agentic AI Transformation Playbook. The download link is in the show notes. If you enjoy these conversations, share it with a friend, give us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform, hit subscribe. Thank you so much. Listen on. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to today's show. We have Charlie Doubek from NTT Data. Charlie, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, James. Thank you very much for having me.
Charlie, we are going to hit on some really hot topics. There have been a lot of recent announcements from Microsoft on agentic AI, and NTT Data is at the leading edge of what we're doing. So let's get into it. So Charlie, what are you hearing from customers on agentic AI? Can you walk us through an example of conversations you're having and how the work that you're doing in agentic AI is transformational for your customers?
Absolutely. James, with agentic AI, we're able to introduce autonomous models that can perform different tasks. And with customers, that means a more tactical use case. So really, it's going to customers, going through customers' agendas and trying to figure out where we can apply agentic AI agents to complete tasks that can give them quick wins for their CTO, for their CIO, for their CEO, that can give them a kind of way forward that is more measurable in the generative AI field, but also to try to help them achieve a automation goal that wasn't achievable before. Obviously, with automation, you always need someone to press a button. You need someone to make a decision. And with agentic AI, especially with what Microsoft's offering, you're able to create agents that can make decisions and complete tasks. And to do that, you need to have a very secure offer. You need to have an offer that is very tangible and something that you can build a prototype around. And really partnering with Microsoft and working through customer goals, we're able to start introducing agents and managing and maintaining them and achieving the goals that customers are setting out.
So as you take a look at the customers you're working with, is there an example that comes to mind of someone who's really taken this to heart and deployed agents and just really found some tremendous value?
Yes, so we have a number of different customers that we've gone into production with at the moment. We have a couple of public case studies around multi-agent examples as well, where we basically talk them through a way of revolutionizing their supply chain so they can look at how they manage inventory. And to do this, they needed a multi-agent model. So they needed agents or AI agents that can communicate to each other. And so this actually allowed us to work with Microsoft Engineering on their new multi-agent workflow model, where you could have low-code, pro-code agents actually talking to each other, and one, specifically looking at inventory, and the other looking at the individual sites and using different large language models, but also leveraging some of the low-code and pro-code offers that Microsoft has. The many customers that were in production today, they have looked at their IT environment as a first start. And what we're doing is automating a lot of IT tasks to prove out agentic experiences. We're, automating password resets and profile changes and things like that. In some cases, actually moving 65% of IT exchanges to automation through agents. And that just gives our customers some assurance before they move on to customer-facing agents that we can achieve those goals and introduce those models. So those, it's not all of the, exchanges we're having. We're having exchanges around automating processes as well. But it's a big demand right now is let's start with IT and try to get IT more efficient.
One of the trends that I'm seeing in the press is last year was the year to experiment with LLMs and with agents. And we're seeing a lot of enterprises moving beyond experimentation, right? So they're focused more on deploying, finding and achieving the ROI rather than doing experimentation everywhere. Does that match with what you're seeing?
Yeah, yeah. I think what Agentic AI has done is brought together so many capabilities that we can leverage in the Microsoft ecosystem. Everything from Microsoft Fabric to assure security. So that way, when you're working with a large language model, you're preventing certain data from hitting the large language model. You have Power Automate, which is a perfect trigger for an agent. So an agent can trigger an automation through Power Automate, Power Platform. So really adding autonomous models has allowed customers to leverage large language models in a different way than just finding information, right? Or generating documents, for example, or productivity. It's actually allowing us to trigger tasks, trigger jobs that they could do. And that really has helped us not only really expand the value, but also if you look at what an agent can do, they're much like people. If you give them a task, if you make it fixed, it does a better job. So I think with the kind of revelation in the last couple of months of multi-agent models, you can actually have very specialized agents. And those agents can be resolving a specific issue and then passing that to another agent who's a specialist in that area. And that really has moved past proof of value into production because you can do a lot more with those models than you could even a few months ago.
So in many ways, it's like having the junior finance analyst do the finance work and the junior procurement analyst do the procurement work, and not ask the one person to do the other person's job, right?
Correct.
Be specific. This is what it's trained on. This is what it's grounded on, and have it focus on that.
Correct. Absolutely. We actually launched a 5 agent model in Microsoft Build this week, where this model is a ITSM process. And so basically, you have one agent opening tickets and talking to customers and engineers. And then you have another actually categorizing those tickets and checking for common tickets. You have a resolver agent behind that. And the resolver agent is there to close down tickets and resolve and use different tools that they can use to close. And then you have a almost an escalation agent that can decide when a human needs to interact. And then you have one that's kind of guarding this process and making sure that that all the compliance is being met and things like that in, as a red teaming agent that we're working on with Microsoft. So these multi-agent models are becoming very real, especially with the tools that Microsoft's released recently.
So, Charlie, with the recent announcements at Build and the tight alignment that you have with Microsoft engineering, what is it that you're most excited about in the next 6 to 12 months about agentic AI?
I think that, working in partnership with Microsoft, we've been able to expand past the impressive offers that Microsoft has and also help customers manage agents across platforms. And that was something that was very big for us this week is that, you'll have customers using things like Copilot Studio and AI Foundry and our engineers developing agents for them. But you might have a few agents that exist in different platforms. And with the multi-agent workflows that have been recently announced, I can add guardian agents, for example, that can check for any data leaks across those agents. I can add red teaming agents, like I mentioned before, and they can actually ingest all the conversations and things that are happening with each agent and double and make sure that they're compliant and that they're fitting all that regulation that and ethical AI that we have to provide to our customers. So multi-agent workflows is probably one of the biggest things to happen into how we address customer needs over the past couple of months that was announced this week.
The agents bring new capabilities, right? New reasoning, new automation capabilities, more complex, more comprehensive compared to what was possible, 12 months ago. So comparing this against traditional AI, how do you see agentic AI really delivering new and differentiated value? Are there opportunities for customers to think about new revenue streams, new business models?
Absolutely. I think, if you look at last year's big generative AI rush, you had lots of customers looking at productivity. How can I make people more productive? I think agentic AI is where how can I outsource almost things to an agent, which is a bigger business case and it's a lot easier for customers to assign different tasks. But many customers struggle knowing what is happening out there because it's happening so fast. There's just updates all the time, especially with Microsoft leading the way in this space. And I think leveraging partners like us, we can take a look at different use cases and say, oh, an agent could do this, but it would do it in this way. This is the type of model we would use. This is the type of security we need to place on it. And so I think that the importance for partners to engage with customers has just dramatically increased because it's very difficult for customers to acquire the talent and the scale that they need to really address this great capability in the market.
Are there any use cases that kind of rise to the top in your conversations with customers? Any first places where they're looking to really find that initial value and then expand from there?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I mean, IT and adding service desk-based agents is huge. But in our own company, for example, we've done multiple case studies over the last couple of weeks where we're introducing agents to make our departments more accessible. So, for example, HR, you can call an agent and ask it, "Hey, I had a sick day yesterday, or I had an issue, and I need to know what paperwork to fill out," and it makes all of our teams more accessible. Where in the past, because of whether that be restructures and things like that, you can't actually just call people and talk to them. And I think our customers and our users really appreciate that. So we've actually developed a innovation with Microsoft where we can leverage our global telephony with agents using a private network. And that allows us to talk to agents so that all generations can interact with agents, and instead of just restricting agents to chatbots, for example, so we can interact through email and voice. And that means that customers can be more bold in communications and allowing people to, the public, to reach out to their agents and speak in a natural language using some of the great technology that Microsoft makes available.
I love that example. I can already think of populations that might not feel comfortable typing,
Mhm.
elderly or younger children. And this would really make it more accessible to those populations.
Absolutely. And like I said, some of the kind of innovations that I mentioned earlier allows us also to make sure that the AI is being responsible by, adding guardian agents and things like that, and red teaming agents to validate the conversations that are happening. And this makes our agents more professional. Much like a person, you need a QA, just double checking and making sure. And that's what we're adding as a partner, working directly with Microsoft Engineering.
Charlie, we've talked earlier about how fast things are changing, right? And a lot of these changes are difficult to digest fully, right? Because things are changing so quickly. Lots of customers have established or have started to establish centers of excellence. And they did that based on traditional AI technology assumptions. And now agentic AI is coming. How should customers rethink the COE in the age of agentic AI? There's some things that they'll be able to do. And then obviously there's some areas where they'll need partner support. But in looking at the customer, how should they rethink how they build a COE in the agentic AI era?
Fantastic question, James. Really, I think many of our customers are struggling getting the use cases out of their end users because the end users don't know what agents can and can't do. So you need someone to walk them through the art of the possible and say, let's look at your biggest pain points. Let's see what agents can and can't do, and start looking at them as tools and not restricting them to a slow process like business app development, where you're basically looking at creating software models in a SaaS environment. And I think that what's different with agentic AI is that you can produce outcomes at scale and then address continuing topics and innovation on a monthly basis, which is not something you do with software. Software, you release something and you update it in a year and it does certain things, where agentic AI is a constant flow of innovation and increased capabilities. So what we started doing is offering AI or agentic AI factories in a box, basically. And what this does is manages intake of use cases. And so a customer can come up with anything, and we can put it into that intake and create prototypes and then put them into production. And then each month give enhancements to those agents. So for example, if you're working with a legal agent, that legal agent is going to need refreshed terms. That legal agent is going to need guidance on specific topics. And so every agent we create in this factory as a service, we put a model on that allows us to enhance and support them using the tools that Microsoft has, like semantic kernel and Azure Agent Management, that gives us the tools to produce that kind of managed service. That's really exciting a lot of our customers because they can think of the art of the possible and say, I want to create this many agentic experiences in this amount of time, and we can actually deliver towards that.
How does this change the customer conversations, the sales conversations, how you talk about delivering value to customers?
Very good question. I see customers approaching us in three different ways at the moment. One is looking for the skill gap and trying to figure out, hey, do I need to redo all my data and to get started? What type of model should I start with? Can we start with something more tactical? And then you have other customers that are looking at what has everyone else done? Can I, look at insurance or manufacturing or FSI, competitors doing, and can I get up to speed with what the art of the possible is? And then the third is really I'm an experienced, uh, 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 user of agentic AI, and I need to scale, and I need a partner. So the way that changes is, a company like NTT, we do business app development, we do global system integration and infrastructure, but actually to help businesses modernize at an accelerated rate right now is a huge advantage we have over our competitors. So really working closely with the leaders in this space, Microsoft, it's allowed us to have more engaging conversations with our clients.
How are the conversations potentially changing from, for example, a billable hours approach to delivering projects to results oriented? Because these agents can now start taking on larger, more complex tasks. Is there a cost takeout results conversation? Is there an IP sale conversation on the agents? How are customers looking at those options for agentic AI?
Very good point. I think that with agentic AI, it depends on the model you're using. So if you're using something like low code, like Copilot Studio, you're really just taking a product and changing features. So you're not creating IP as such, but you're creating a use case for an agent to be able to complete a task or do something for a customer. When you go into the pro code side, you can start leveraging IP and you can start adding code that will need a life cycle behind it, which is great, obviously, for clients and customers like us. But I think that what we do that's very different is we don't treat agentic AI like SaaS. You know what I mean? Where we're actually almost seeing agents as a workforce. And like any workforce, you need to improve the skills of your staff. You need to be open to different models and changing LLMs, if you will, firing an LLM if you know what I mean, and putting a new one in. So I think what we do very differently is we're not looking to create a scalable use case for every single interaction. We're looking at helping customers really scale up the amount of agents they can take advantage of and creating a library of templates they can choose from that gets them started.
I had a conversation a while ago with someone, and the conversation was around having a talent development plan for agents in the same way that you would for staff, right? You onboard them, you train them, and then you have to have a retraining program every year, right? To upgrade and keep them accurate and effective and efficient.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because upskilling agents is all about, especially with generative AI, is that you need to give them new information to adjust to so they can handle the amount of interactions they have and tasks they have. And it's also a time to kind of cross check what they're doing each month, and say, out of all their interactions, this is the type of information they're struggling with, or this is the type of process where they need more human interaction. So it's a constant, monthly thing that we do with our customers is really double checking the knowledge base, double checking the capabilities of each agent, and adding new capabilities. I mean, there's new things that happen almost weekly in this space. Developments like MCP, for example, the protocol that's been released that Microsoft supports, where you can give agents tools that you couldn't before. And I think that having a service behind that allows you to say, okay, a good example is the announcement of the computer agent that Microsoft did recently, where you can have agents interact with computers and do different tasks. And for IT support, that's huge. You can actually troubleshoot a laptop through an agent. And those are things that are happening on a week to week basis. So you need to cross check your agents and make sure they have these skills to get the best out of your investment.
So, Charlie, on the workforce side, how should customers and partners think about how they reskill their technical staff in the age of agentic AI, and then also the sales staff? How should kids in college today who always dreamed about being a developer and they had their career mapped out and now they're coming into the workforce, right? What can they expect from their careers over the next 5 or 10 years?
That's an extremely good question. I think the way things are moving, at least in the last few months, is that some of the hyperscalers that we work with are offering so many ways to upskill, especially like if you look at Microsoft Skill Fest that they've done, AI Skill Fest, that, is a kind of Guinness World Record where people were just upskilling. And I pushed so many young people into that, especially because we're a global company. We support, China and South Africa and all over, the world. We're really pushing that interns and young people are able to skill up on technology. And where I see people really going towards from a career perspective is more on the business process and business management side than specifically, specializing in a code or something where you're kind of limited to software development or limited to more mechanical side of things. And you're looking at the impact that our technical capabilities in agentic AI and other areas can impact a business and even consulting companies on that impact, because AI is going to rapidly change. Everyone's saying what the next step is, and is that general intelligence where AI is just able to sort out its own problems, but still you're going to have to take how a business operates and implement that technology in a way that has meaning to it. And that's always going to be a need for people to figure out.
So the AI will largely probably automate the mundane technical tasks, and it will free up and maybe increase the expectation of developers and people to really understand the human side of the business,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. The business impact. How can, right now we're looking at years and years of very, you know, uh, strict automation rules that have been placed on businesses where they haven't had to really have a huge impact to how they operate. And now we have models that can transform the way a business interacts with their clients. And you need people to come in and guide businesses through all those wonderful things that are going to be coming out in the coming years. And I think that's going to be a huge market for the human side. So we can focus on what is the actual outcome versus how you're doing it, which the machines are starting to do for us.
Excellent. Charlie, so first of all, thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for being such an awesome partner for Microsoft. We really appreciate the deep alignment that you have with our product and engineering teams. So a big thank you for that. As other companies and customers start to think about going down this path, any words of advice that you might have for them on how they should think about starting this journey?
Yeah, I see the most successful companies I've worked with are not looking at it as what can agentic AI do for me in these specific kind of niche use cases. They're looking at, I get what agentic AI could be. These are my problems. Let's work on them together with a partner and develop models. So I get to be the technology expert. They get to be the business expert. And that is producing results that we wouldn't even imagined last year within companies. So I challenge a lot of our customers to not think about picking a specific technology, but working with our partners like Microsoft so you can assure the right levels of security because your data is in Azure, for example. And we can come up with how the technology will fix the problems, but we need to know what those problems are. And so we've had companies come up with thousands of use cases where we're whittling through what technology we can use to fix or solve those problems that they're looking for. And I find that that is a better approach than looking at, and you create an agent that does one thing or two things. And I think that's comes from a world of software as a service, which has been with us for a very long time. And it's not quite the same in the agentic world.
So start with the problem in mind and not start with, let's find the coolest tech and do something really impressive with it.
Correct. And that's why it's so great working with Microsoft because the toy box is huge. So it's really just give us the problem. We will find a solution using the right technology to secure, best in breed technology. But let's work on it problem to problem instead of actually, uh, looking at what one capability is, because one capability that can be put in front of a customer can be obsolete in weeks. So it's not so much about the capability; it's about being able to solve and scale the amount of agents that you could produce to a customer.
And that's one of the advantages of working with a partner is
Hmm.
because once you build a use case for a specific business problem, you have your pulse on what's happening in the world of technology, and you can come in and recommend an improvement based on a new release of a capability. So rather than having an agent that is out of date, doesn't have the right logic,
Hmm.
isn't maybe providing the best results, and then the customer gives up and walks away because they look at the agent and they say it doesn't work. A partner like yourself can always make sure that you're incorporating the new techniques, the new technologies to provide value to customers.
Absolutely. You've seen so many companies start to look at, translation services and accents and things that they can add value with around agentic AI. And with some of the recent updates that we've worked on with Microsoft, we have agents that speak 57 languages. And so some of those offers are obsolete, and we can actually provide them immediately to customers with agents that truly understand what you're saying, no matter where they are, what language that is. And that is the beauty of this revelation of agentic AI is you cannot just say, I have a capability, buy this capability. It's more, I want a partner that is going to move as fast as what's happening in the industry. And I think with Microsoft creating these new centers of excellence that we could use as a partner, it means that not only can I be a domain expert, but I can also leverage the great engineering talent that Microsoft has to solve some of these complex problems for customers, which is somewhere where we love to be. And we're very fortunate for the teams at Microsoft that allow us to do that.
Excellent. Charlie, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your partnership. Look forward to many more conversations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.